Hi, this is Linda King for acrylicpouring.com, and today I'm going to show you how to make vintage looking peonies. This video will cover some basic paint colors and an easy pour for the background, and also the simple tools and the technique you'll need to make the flower design. I want to be sure to credit Fiona Art and her beautiful flower dips for inspiring my design today. I'm using Amsterdam brand acrylic paints, although my white is basics that I'm using up. I like Amsterdam because they're just a little bit better quality, yet still pretty affordable, and I like the results I get with them. I have down a 12 by 16 canvas, and I've already laid down my first layer of white. And I make that very thin because I'm just using it as a lubricant for the actual background. So that white is very thin, but the white that I'm going to be making my flowers with is the same consistency as all my other paints, and they are just a hair thicker than a regular pour. So they're, I'll just go through the colors and kind of hopefully show you. The colors I'm using today are Quinacridone Rose. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, and I'm hoping that I can kind of show you how thick that is. Basically, when the paint dribbles off the popsicle stick and lands on the other paint, it creates just a slight mound that disappears really quickly, if that's helpful. So that's Quinacridone Rose. See how I trip over it? This is Sky Blue Light. Again, kind of that same consistency. And VanDyke Brown. And if I didn't say it already, this is titanium white that I'm using. So I'm going to go ahead. I also have, let me show you real quick, I also have pre-cut squares of plastic. This is the plastic wrap that the canvas came in, and I just reused that. And that's what I'll be using to make it, kind of do a reverse dip to make the flower design. So that's what you'll need too, several of these cut up. So I'm going to go ahead and pour a background. So I've got an empty cup, and I'm going to go ahead and layer my paints. Go ahead and put some white in the bottom. And you can certainly use any colors you want. I just feel like these three colors kind of give it a vintage feel. Actually, I'm going to start with the brown, I think. So it's white, brown. I do not mix these. I try to kind of slide them down the side of the cup so they layer rather than mix. And none of these have any silicone in them. So then I'm going to throw in some rose. A little bit more brown. I try to get more brown than anything else because the darker color helps the white flowers stand out a little bit. So there's some blue. I think I'll throw a little bit of white in there. Normally I have my white in a cup, but since I had this leftover, I just added my Floetrol to the leftover white paint and mixed it up in there. So I'm going to go ahead with some more brown. And I think I'm going to call that good and go ahead and pour. So I like to, can you see the way I have these layered? I don't know if it makes any difference, but I always pour off the long side of the layers rather than the side of the layers, if that made any sense at all. Okay, so I'm not really concerned about what kind of a pattern I get, but I do want to move it around enough to get some interesting things going on. And sometimes my pattern is so interesting I just hate to wreck it. But regardless of what I get today, I'm going to go ahead and make the flowers over the top of it. And if I don't have enough of one color on the canvas when I'm done with tilting this off, I might add a little bit of one or another colors. Excuse me, I have some allergies that are bothering me today, so I'm going to give it just a second here to spread out on its own before I start tilting. I tend to be an impatient tilter, which is not such a detrimental thing for this particular pour, but on some of them it can wreck what I'm doing, and I have to really tell myself to slow down. Now I can already see that I really like this in here, so the background doesn't really matter, but sometimes there are some interesting things in there that I just want to go ahead and keep, so I'll just work around them. But we'll see what happens after I finish tilting. So the reason I make that first white layer real thin is so that I don't get too much paint on the canvas. Because I'm sure you've all had that really wonderful pour you've done and you just have way too much paint on the canvas and it pours right off the sides and is a big disappointment later. All right. So I'm going to leave it like that and go ahead and start on my flowers. I have to wipe my hands off. So keep some paper towel handy because getting paint on your gloves and trying to pick up that plastic can be a real challenge. All right, I'm going to grab a piece of plastic. And my white. So what I do is I just layer, or excuse me, not layer, I spiral the white to make the flower. And you can do that as big as you want. So I spiral the white and then I usually spiral some pink inside the white to give it a little bit of depth. And then I take my plastic, and I like to have my plastic big enough so I can hang on to two sides at least, because the critical thing to make the shape of the flower is getting all these sides up evenly and then pulling them straight off the canvas. So if I have something to hang on to from the start rather than dropping it all into the paint, it makes it easier. So I want to make sure my flower design has contact, all has contact with the plastic. And then here's the tough part. I want to pull up that side, this side, and then straight up. And that's what starts to form your flower. So let's do one over here. And you can make these as big or as small as you want. Just be sure that if you're making them a little bit bigger, you have a big enough piece of plastic to cover them. Spiral my pink. Have my piece of plastic. Flip it over there. Here we go. Drop it down there into that paint. Make sure that's all got contact. Pull it up. Up. So I have my garbage can very close to throw the plastic in. I've tried reusing them and it really it doesn't work very well. I'd like to do that, but it just doesn't really seem to work. So let's go ahead and put one right here. Make it just a little bit smaller. I have my plastic behind me because yesterday I was trying to make this same video and I grabbed some and 2 extra pieces stuck to it and fell right into my painting when I was almost done. So this is take 2 and I've learned my lesson. See, there's one stuck to my thumb right now. Darn thing. So like I said, the key to making these flower shapes is to try as closely as you can to get both sides pulled up, hold them, and then try to get those other 2 sides and pull it all up at the same time. It's challenging. And I tend to do it too fast sometimes, which doesn't help, so. Make a bigger one right here. I kind of like this. I don't know if I want to wreck it, but I guess I will. I guess I'll let it go. So you can certainly use any technique you want in the background and any color. This just happens to be kind of my favorite for this particular type of pour. And let's do a small one here. And I think I'll make one more little tiny one up here in the corner, but before I do that, I'm going to add just a little bit of brown here. I really like the darker contrast. I really like that, but I think it just feels like it needs another one over there, so I'll quickly do that, and then that should give you the general idea of how to do these. So I hope you enjoy trying this on your own, This has been Linda King for acrylicpouring.com. If you enjoyed the video, please click the like, and I'd love to hear your comments and encourage you to subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for watching.